Hello guys, welcome back to Trotliners. Thanks for joining me today. Today we're looking at some more old footage from September of 2015. And as usual, we are fishing on the floodways on ditch number 2. We pull up to the first line. As you can see, I'm already calling for the net, so that's a good thing. We didn't get skunked. Nice little 3 or 4 pounder. Seemed pretty feisty. That was the only fish we got off of that first line, so things weren't looking that great. Now we're on to the second line, and as you can see, I'm moving the hook bucket out of the way. That's a pretty good indicator right there. We think we've got a pretty good fish on. Now we fought with this fish for several minutes just to get it into position, to get it into the net. And as you can see, I've got the other GoPro mounted up front by the steering wheel there, but I didn't have it set right. It was taking a bunch of pictures instead of taking video, so what I got off of it was unusable. That's a pig right there. If those were the only 2 fish we caught, that would have still been a good trip. That one's pushing upper 30s, low 40s. And that was all we got off of that line. Now this line right here that we're starting to run, you're gonna get to see us run this entire line. It was absolutely loaded with flathead. That's the good thing about fishing for them at this time of the year. Being in September, we pretty much know the locations where they're going to be. As long as you know the location, you have good bait, you're going to catch fish. You know, baits for flathead, you're looking at goldfish, carp, brim, crawfish, sometimes even shrimp or cut bait. Mostly you want to stick with live baits, and you want to look for locations that's during the fall. The water gets hot, so you really want to look for locations that are a little bit deeper of water, that has cover, which means down trees, wood, log jams, for a good resting spot for the fish, and it'll be located relatively close to where they can get food. Once you factor all those things together, you can move in on top of them, and you've got a resident population you're fishing off of. As you can see, we had this line in exactly the right place. Now locating these fish can be kind of species specific. Channel cat, once the water gets hotter, they're going to stay more in a mid-depth hole, but they're going to run into the shallows a lot to feed. If you're fishing for those with trot lines, I would stick mostly with shrimp, crawfish, cut bait. I wouldn't bother trying to keep live bait alive and healthy enough to use for channel cat. In hot weather, channel cat, they're also bad about dying on the line. If your line is set in the shallows where they're running up to feed, and you catch some, normally they don't last long if they're on there for very long. So you wind up catching a bunch of fish that you can't use. But as a single line, this line that we're running right now was quite possibly the best single line that we had for the season. When we get back to fishing and get back out on the water and get back to videoing, I didn't do any video of any of the fishing we done in any of 2017, and very little in 2016. But if I get back to filming this year, I would like to see. I'm wiping the camera off. I think that thing's working, and it is. It's just taking pictures, not video. But when I get out there this year, I would like to get, I like the view of the GoPro from the back. I like the view that we normally get from that camera up front, but I love that intermediate view that's usually on the windshield of the console. So I'm thinking about getting a GoPro 5 and putting it there on that windshield so we can get better audio. You can actually hear what we're saying to each other, and you can hear the fish splashing and all the knocks and bumps and bangs and everything that's going on. And maybe I won't have to make these videos where I've got to talk over them. Yeah, this line right here is a blockbuster. It is a rock star. You can see the floor of the boat is just filling up. The majority of the fish, 80% of what we caught on this trip, is off of this one line. There's a double, 2 in the net at once. But there's no jump cuts, there's no editing on this line. All we're doing, you're seeing it as it happens. And it's so strange not to get a gar or a turtle, a soft shell turtle, or something like that in amongst all these fish. Look at me, I'm showing it to that other camera to get a good close-up shot, and it isn't even working. That's a nice fish. Yeah, there's another one. That's probably pushing 20 pounds. Now we've got a little limb line just up the ditch here a little bit we're going to run. And ironically, after me mentioning about not having a gar on the line, we have a gar. A good sized gar. Well, this one's dead, but keep in mind you can eat these things. But if you decide you're going to clean one of these long-nosed gars, you're going to need some tin snips and either a hacksaw or a sawzall. And once you get through that outer layer, you can just shuck them right on out of there. And each fillet has a light meat and a dark meat. The dark meat being on more toward the bottom of the fillet. On a larger gar like that top fillet, it's actually really good eating. That lower part of that fillet, the grayer meat, it doesn't taste nowhere near as good, so I couldn't recommend it. But you're talking probably 15, 17 pound gar there. Now if he would have been alive, we would have released him. and it's clear that he's dead, so we're just going to lay him in the front of the boat and go check our last line. Well, I'm reaching for the net. That's a good thing. Now on the lines we run now, you know, I made the videos that showed you how to build them with the beads and the swivels and all that. I quit building them that way because people kept stealing them. So as you can see, we just run what I call a quick line now. It's just basically a string between two weights. And sometimes those fish can pull those trotline clips down that line. And which is kind of a good thing, because if it's a bigger fish, it gives him a little bit of lead to run and to wear himself out. And there's the last fish of the trip. Little 5-pounder. That's all for the trip, so I'm going to give you a little bit of slideshow here of a few photos of some of what we do when we get them home. We hang them up from this tree, and then we cut the tails off, and that bleeds the fish out. We let them hang until we know they're dead, and then we come back and clean them and fillet them out. Once you cut that tail off, that blood really pours out, as you're going to see in this next photo out of this big one. And it doesn't take it long to kill the fish. I'll see you next time, guys. Thanks for watching.